It's been a stormy and extremely windy 2 weeks here in the Hawaiian Islands. How's it? Bob Rogers here, and in this episode, I'm taking us back to Kahana Bay on the warmer shores of Oahu, once again. True, I'm learning how to kayak surf, but this time it was an extraordinary lesson learned on a wild and stormy day. The winds were up to 35-mile-an-hour gusts, and the waves were huge. I had driven by the bay earlier in the day and was jacked up to finally get out in the water, even though it looked a little intimidating. My 18-year-old brain was telling my 71-year-old body, go for it, dude. Come on, surf's up. I barely made it out to the outside lineup where you catch the waves. The waves were bigger than I had imagined. For half an hour or so, I was getting pounded as I tried to catch waves, survive the takeoff, and then turn around and try to get back out to the lineup through the oncoming waves. I caught a few, but I was getting tossed out of the kayak more than I was catching waves. As I paddled out, the oncoming waves were huge, and I really had a hard time negotiating them without getting tossed out of the kayak. I struggled to hang on to my paddle, which was tethered to the kayak. Well, because the maritime warnings had told me that there were heavy winds and probably sizable waves, I had decided not to bring my GoPro cameras. I'm not talented enough to surf these extreme conditions and operate two waterproof cameras at the same time. So there are no videos documenting this day. Fortunately though, I found some reenactment videos. Okay, I finally got back out to the lineup and trolled back and forth across the bay hunting for a big one. Or was it hunting me? A few hydrofoil and longboard surfers and I were way out, further than I had ever been. I saw some really big waves rolling through, some originating as far out as the mouth of the bay. And then I saw the biggest wave I had ever seen in my 8 years of surfing this bay, approaching us. It was my turn. Without thinking, I paddled over towards the highest peak, the takeoff zone. This wave was so long that it seemed like it stretched all the way across the 3/4 of a mile wide bay. As I dropped into the wave, I immediately turned right along the face of the wave, rose back to the top, and then made a sweeping turn back down to the left. Completing the S-turn, I then made a bottom turn and aimed the kayak north towards the other peak, halfway across the bay. It was cresting and getting ready to dump its white water down the face of the wave. The Wave Witch is quick, and I slid underneath the cascading water. A hydrofoiler treading water at the bottom of the wave hooted and hollered as I rode across the face of the giant wave. So how big was this wave? We'll put it this way. The kayak is 12 feet long, and on the steepest part of the wave, it didn't touch the bottom or the top. It was the biggest wave I had ever kayak surfed. Maybe even the biggest wave I had ever surfed on as well. It was big for me, especially at my age. But I was flying. I rode up and down the face of that wave. It was a long ride across the bay, and there was still plenty size on the wave. I was stoked. After riding past other surfers in the water, with my feet on the turning bar, I turned the rudder to the left and cranked a sharp turn, hoping to reverse my trajectory and head back south. As the kayak aimed down the face of the wave, I realized I screwed up. I didn't make a full turn, and I didn't lay back on the kayak to bring the nose up. It purled, or for non-surfer, that's when the nose enters into the water at the bottom of the wave. This caused the buoyant kayak to catapult me over the handlebars, or over the nose of the board. This resulted in the kayak being flipped upside down and spun around with my legs still strapped in the cockpit. I was now underwater in the sitting position, dragged along with the wave, and then, channeling my surfer background, I relaxed and my knee straps loosened and the kayak broke free. I still had the paddle in my hands, but the size and strength of the waves ripped it away, and the mountain of foam took the kayak towards the shore, which was 400 yards away. The wave and its foam was so powerful that it stretched the leash that was on my paddle attached to my kayak double its normal length, and I had to replace it. I surfaced and did a body check. Other than being extremely exhausted and shell-shocked, I was fine. As I dog paddled to get my bearings, I saw that the kayak was floating about 200 yards away from me, with more collapsing waves coming. It was still a long swim, and I was already wiped out from the many times I had to climb back into the boat in the last hour. A hydrofoiler paddling back out grabbed my paddle and started towing the kayak back out to me. I was so grateful. It reduced the swim as more waves kept rolling in. I finally grabbed the kayak, thanked him, and got back on board. I instinctively paddled back out, or at least away from the oncoming waves. Well, I was done. I had caught 3 great waves, but I got tossed on 6 others. And it was time for the old man to throw in the towel. I caught a much smaller wave to get me back to land. It was like I was returning from a 12-round fight with the Pacific Ocean, and the ocean won by a TKO. I reached the shore and showered near the parking lot. A nearby foiler said he had seen the wave and gave me kudos for the ride. Though I was numb, I thanked him and made my way back to my truck, kayak and paddle under arm. These waves were too big for me on that kayak. With a surfboard, you can duck under an oncoming broken wave, but not with a kayak. With all that wind and wave size, it was beyond my limit. So I made my way home, fell asleep while watching videos on my iPad. I felt fortunate I survived the carnage unscathed. The picture of that wave shall always be in my mind's eye, and I just had to share it with you guys. Mahalo. Well, catch up with you guys later. Have a good one. Stay healthy, safe, and of course be happy. Aloha.